Smart24, driving business.
And many thanks for joining us this morning. We return with more business updates, and now let's have a look at our business tips and quotes. And well, of course, away from our business tips and the business quotes, now we continue to understand more of what is happening within the country. There's a lot happening, and of course, at the start of the week, more discussions rotating around the value of Uganda's currency. There was a very huge trend on social media rotating around 200 Ugandan shillings. I don't know what 200 Ugandan shillings can do for you, because the arguments on Twitter, that is for the Ugandans on Twitter, or UOT, was basically rotating around the fact that Uganda's 200 shillings cannot get you anything reasonable at the moment. And obviously everyone was sharing their own views about this same issue, and we want to understand, what do you think anyway besides that, because this is a question we can't leave to you. What can 200 shillings buy for you as a Ugandan out there? When you look through the shops in your suburbs, what can it get for you? But first, let's have our social media trends to see what was happening in there. Uwera at Uwera Linda says, I can take a month plus without seeing a 200 shillings coin. She did mention in there, and of course, I don't know about you, because according to Uwera saying she can take a month without seeing a 200 shilling coin, that means she's a person only, if she used to touch coins, she only touches 500 coins. Now, the Allen County at Allen says that since when did the Chikomando guys start asking for 200 shillings for beans? I think most probably everyone who has been getting this particular Chikomando at any cost, you are actually getting it free of charge minus an extra charge. Now, Uwera at Uwera Linda again says, is there anything you can buy for 200 shillings? I think that's a question asking if there is anything you can buy for 200 shillings in Ugandan's currency here. I doubt if there is that anything apart from maybe matchboxes, maybe a pancake or something, which also pancakes are now turning to be 500. Now, Farouk at Social Outcast 49 says, 2 years ago, you needed 200 shillings for OTT to be able to use the data you paid for with your own money. We've already seen things as a country. If you have to remember that over the top tax that was included, you only had to pay 200 shillings per day. Now, King at infamous_trip says, the only purpose of the 200 shillings coin in this economy was to scratch our airtime cards. As you come to think of it, that is according to what King Infamous Strip was saying. In that same situation, as we follow up on that, you get to realize in Kenya that 200 Kenyan shillings, if you turn the 200 Kenyan shillings to Ugandan shillings, you can have some good money with you. Now, Nyaf at Nyafgal_ says, man, it seems like I'm very young. Y'all used to buy soda with 200 shillings. The only thing I remembered buying with it was ball gum. So I think this one is actually saying during her childhood days, 200 shillings was only used to buy sweets and chewing gum, but it's actually the same thing that is actually happening now. Now, Chisoboka Raymond says motivational speakers will come out of the blue and say, I used to save 200 shillings per day, and after 1 year, I bought land in Kololo. So it's he's actually making a simple kind of, let's say, a sarcastic tweet in there. Now, besides that, Pius Ahumuza had made a tweet saying, buy a matchbox and eat the heads of the martyrs. Now, Faith Kwizera at FaithKwizera22 replying, Naemwe, our economy is useless. That is a harsh word, I should say. The only thing my 200 shillings can buy me is a matchbox. Well, I don't know what your 200 shillings can buy you, or you can actually add it into your piggy bank and see how much of an improvement you can make after the year if you continue saving those coins every other day that passes by. Of course, that is what the Ugandans on Twitter had to say in regards to that. But the bigger question is now, how far have we come as a country in regards to the Ugandan shilling's depreciation? Why is the currency losing value out of the blue here? Now, besides that, members of parliament, on the other hand, had this to say in regard to the same matter, because when we look at this, we ask ourselves questions: why is our currency losing value? Why is it that something that I could buy back then, for example, a chapati that I could get at 200 shillings, then it switched to 500 shillings. Now it is currently at 1,000 shillings in most of the areas. And if it comes to fast food restaurants, it is actually around 2,000 Ugandan shillings. Why and how did we reach here? So we look at the depreciation of the shilling as the members of parliament take us back to a journey of how far we've come and why are we here.
The dollar has been depreciating, and the shilling has depreciated because most of the lenders that has been supporting the budget declined to support the budget. So there is general scarcity of the dollars in Uganda and East Africa because our export has also reduced. And because the export has reduced, and therefore even remittances from Ugandans abroad has also declined. Now, part of the decline is also as a result of the global economic, the economy around the world is in recession as a result of the Ukraine-Russian war. So that's why the shilling has really depreciated. But as government negotiates and attracts more funders and more investors in the course of the financial year, we expect the shilling to gain strength, and government need to come up with a favorable monetary policy that will create jobs and attract more investments, especially in the oil sector. And also government need to comply with environmental standard issues that was raised by the environmentalist regarding the investment by Total. That has also scared some investors that would have implemented part of the final decision investment. So the delay in the oil investment, the decline, the weakening of the dollar, and the decline of global remittances to Uganda, and the decline in export, and the reduction of some investors who had scheduled to do the investment, and the reduction in funding the budget by the development partners. Thank you.
I don't think that is right. Our shilling depreciating, when? Is it of recent? All the surrounding countries, I don't know with Sudan, but all surrounding countries, Rwanda, Tanzania, Kenya, it has been like that from the 70s up to now, possibly even the 60s. It is only the 60s that the Ugandan shilling was a lot stronger in the East African community. But for 50 years, the way I've lived and I came to understand, by 1976, when I was doing a black market magendo, I knew the Kenyan shilling is stronger up to today. So if you are saying that it is depreciating today, no, it is not today. Our currency has been like that for over 50 years, especially in terms of Kenya and Tanzania. It has been like that. For you who are young, you think it is depreciating today. Before, I mean, in relation to other, especially Kenya, Tanzanian currencies. No. Kenyan currency, I can tell you clearly that by 1970s, our shilling was much more weaker. Actually, today it is appreciating because you can see the dollar has somehow stabilized. The Kenyan shilling is at around 30. There is a time it came up to 38. 38. Each one shilling of Kenya, 38 shillings of Uganda. Today it is 30, around 30. You can check. Actually, in terms of Kenya, it is our shilling is appreciating. So to me, it is true for you to say, in relation to especially the two neighbors, Tanzania and Uganda, the shilling has been like that. But it is a historical problem. It's not yesterday. You take it back to the 60s if you wish to create a parity of the East African, the traditional East Africa. Also over time, internationally, you count your money related to which currency? The dollar. Do you do it in the renminbi? I mean the yen or the yuan? No. It is the dollar. Is the dollar backed by gold? From 1972, no. While your shilling is backed by gold, the dollar is backed by an opinion, American opinion, the exchequer's opinion. That is all. So to me, I don't think even the dollar of today has depreciated a lot. The dollar of 50 years ago, 20 years ago is no longer the dollar of today. No, that's not the case. Especially from 1972, when the dollar later on, I think it was Nixon or President Nixon, who did away with the dollar being backed by gold. So it is an opinion. Now, get a currency of Uganda in relation with the dollar. The currency of Uganda is backed by gold. The other one, the dollar is backed by an opinion. The dollar has depreciated heavily in relation to 20, 30, 50, 100 years ago. I can relate to that, and you see how much. For example, in Bugisu, when we were getting independence, Bugisu staked 300,000 pounds. 300,000 pounds. But if you relate by 1962 the pound of then to today, it would be like $3 billion or 3 billion pounds, something like that. Just 300,000 at the time. Because we had to get custody of our independence, and Bugisu did that, especially through Bugisu Cooperative Union. So you can see every other currency has depreciated over time. So don't tell me the shilling in relation to the traditional East African community. No, it has been like that. From the 70s, ever since we got problems, economic problems in this country. It depreciated in relation to Kenya shilling, in relation to Tanzanian shilling. Maybe only Rwanda, but of course Rwanda has not had many problems like Uganda. You see, I do not know that of Congo and Sudan, Southern Sudan. I don't know much, but at least the traditional East African community I know. I live on the border with Kenya, and our shilling of recent, and it has stabilized for now about 1 year. One is 30 shillings. One Kenyan shilling is equal to 30 shillings Uganda. It has remained like that. Having dropped from 38, that alone tells a lot. Volumes of money. I mean volumes of reasons. I want to say the Uganda shilling is okay. It has no problem.
Well, of course, that is Honorable Godfrey Ekanya, that is Honorable John Musira, a Member of Parliament, Bubulo East constituency. The other one was Honorable Godfrey Ekanya, Member of Parliament, Tororo North County from Tororo District, giving their view in regards to the depreciation of the Ugandan shillings. And of course, Honorable John Musira does mention that by the look of things, the depreciation dates back from the early 1960s, the early 60s to the current. So it is actually, because it is money, you look at the cost of the dollar. There was a time a dollar would cost 3,900. Now it's costing around 3,700, 3,600. It does depend on, of course, the forex bureaus and the rate at which they buy and sell. But relatively, averagely, around 3,700 Ugandan shillings in that particular space. But besides that, now Andrew joins us on set this morning as we dig deeper in understanding the depreciation of the shillings. Good morning once again, Andrew.
A very good morning, Gerard. How are you doing?
Good. Yeah. So we are looking at the kind of discussions when you look at how our shilling, or we should say that the shilling has lost value. The mere fact that Ugandans look at the fact that, first of all, what you could buy at 1,000 Ugandan shillings, let's say in 2010, isn't the exact thing that you can buy at the same amount this year.
Yeah, actually, that's very interesting. You know, Joram, there is something which they call having the ability to influence.
Okay.
And I know where I will hit there. Okay. I've just introduced that statement. You know, there is this whole aspect. There is a member of parliament there that mentioned about the opinion. That thing has also a role it plays in some way. Well, I want you to look at economies like Iran, just to compare. When it comes to, you know, as an economy, when you get realized that actually you can, you know, determine the dependency, that you can, as a country, you can depend on what you can actually give out there, regardless of the aid that comes in through the country. Because, like when he did mention that the dollar is simply an opinion. And, you know, for forex traders, for people that do forex, will tell you that actually the rates at which these values increase is 90% politics. It has nothing to do with what's happening in the economics, you know, so-called, you know, inflation. So now it brings me back to this point of, first of all, take a look at Uganda. We failed to have something that we can rely on and something that defines us. Because what defines you as a country, you will possess, you will become a monopoly over it. And when you become a monopoly over that, that means you're going to generate money because you're solving the problems of the world. And throughout of that, okay, fine. Even the little we've been trying to have, to have some sort of dominancy, coffee. When we get this money, the funny thing is that, again, we take it back to those countries. Remember, we import more and we export less. You know, most of our, actually, the funny thing is that most of the foreign currency that comes in to act as a reserve for the shilling is donations. You know, donations, and which most of these donations probably are not put into, you know, invested into activities that involve value addition. Because it's why we see that Buy Uganda, Build Uganda. We are trying to push it, but it has not yet reached its peak. And this is such a time when the currency is depreciating. It's the time we need to embrace it. Because once we embrace it and create the PR, they call it, we create the hype for this. You know, the international community can, you know, do that. And also we need to understand something. Where we are right now, it's very important how we spend the foreign revenue that we have.
Yeah.
That if the money comes back, we've gotten it from coffee. And again, we invest that money back. I mean, we get the foreign currency and we spend again too much. I mean, we are putting it out there. And the fact that we are putting it out there, that means we are returning it back definitely, you know. And also the fact that there is so much production of, we produce goods in their raw state. You know, the value addition is not really has not yet reached its peak. and that explains why if we don't revise such circumstances, because you see, even when investors are coming to invest into your country, they also consider all that, and there is what we call risk aversion. Okay. Investors turn, that they weigh the risk of your currency. Okay, they are investing their money here, but what's the value? What value does the country hold? And with that way, that's why I said bargaining power when I was starting up that way, that when your bargaining power is less as a country when it comes to negotiating these deals, definitely, even the most chances are high that most of the money, when the investor still deals with you, is going to put it out of the country, because you don't have the influence. You're desperate, actually, you need him. He tells you, I'm giving you the 20%, but you feel like, okay, it's okay, let's go. 20% is okay, then 0. You're willing to go by that. So that, and these are things which we don't see and which don't seem real, but that is the reality. Otherwise, if we have all these investors coming in, why is our shilling still depreciating?
Very true.
We can't hide all this. It speaks out. So this would be very important. The manufacturing sector, and we have what we can. Okay, we may not be in position to go to get into the heavy, like machinery and all that, but at least let's start with what we already have an advantage over. We have the coffee. We have the agriculture. Now, of course, the service sector is also rising up. But let's embrace as much as we can to add quality, because the more bargaining power you have, the more your currency will be. And the bargaining power is influenced by how the economy is performing, how much you're producing and you're selling out there. You'll have a high. When he mentioned that statement, the dollar is determined by an opinion. Let me tell you, America has really nothing to say, but because they have established themselves in a certain way that I can speak, because you're using my currency.
Very
so
true.
I can determine
because
the value.
Look at there are lots of currencies that value highly than it does.
There are lots of them, exactly.
It is used in more business transactions.
In more business transactions. So, but where did it all start? There was a point when that wasn't even there. Way back in the World War, when now America was, the war that ended slavery. And America was actually Uganda, by the time Uganda got independence, were way well off as compared to Uganda after the World War. The slave war, the war that ended slavery. But it all started in the United States.
But of course that traces way back. Really.
It's way back. It's 1800.
By the time we reached the 19th, the US was already into
it was some sort. It was our upcoming power in that way. But of course, by 1960, because by then there was quite a strong rivalry. Germany, there was actually America hasn't even recognized that much,
because the US comes in as a strong economic power during the World War II.
Exactly,
because it was not actively engaging into the war, but this time around supplying. They were actually supplying this equipment, fighting equipment, and at the long run, when these other countries went into setback due to the war, economically, the US had to stand up.
Had to stand up, So all that, but you see, like what I'm trying to drive in this back, if we can have something where we can have influence and monopolize as a country, of which we are the Pearl of Africa. We have all that actually. We're the Pearl of Africa. All that, it's all added advantage in terms of establishing ourselves as a financial powerhouse. And with what we endowed with the people that come in this country, and they wonder why even we're in the state we're in. It's not used, we all know. But if we could use that for the advantage, we could become a rising powerhouse that can actually sit down and we set our price. In that way, our shilling will also have a certain, but otherwise, regardless of, you see, it matters even as we export. What is the value of our exports? It all comes back to how you establish yourself as a country, when it comes to monopolizing on what you can do best.
Very true.
Yeah.
And obviously, as Andrew says, that we need to make a very huge focus on the fact that what represents us as a country, what is that item that we have as an identity like the other countries do, because you realize there are countries that are known for technology, there are countries that are known for tourism, even though we are known for tourism as well. But you get to realize now Rwanda does seem like to be a country that is more known for tourism than we are, yet we are referred to as the Pearl of Africa. Now, the bigger questions there though, so how can we do? But well, I think we can start with coffee because by the look of things, we are the leading in the region here. Not only that, on the African continent, in number 2 position clearly shows you how much of the power we have when it comes to coffee exports in the country. But like Andrew says, what is the value of our exports in the long run? But I think you can attest to this with the fact that at times the money that you used to buy something in the last 5 years may not be the same money you're using. And surprisingly, if someone was earning 500,000, we did have this argument yesterday, that if someone was earning 500,000, say in 2010, there are lots of things that they could use that 500,000 for. Today, with 500,000 Ugandan shillings, you can spend that lot in one day. Bigger questions in that space. But besides that, as we're heading into the break, well, you can start your investments and see that in the next few years, you have some good money with you. Star 292 hash is the USSD code that you definitely need to use to kickstart off your investment with the Zabu platform. Zabu is a platform which is powered by Altex East Africa, and it does say do something new. Well, with something you can choose to do today is by investing in government bonds and, of course, various securities. Zabu has markets that open at 8:15 a.m. and closing time at 3:15 p.m. East African Standard Time. Please do note that these markets are fully closed during the weekends and on public holidays. And so note that you can only be able to invest through the weekdays. Zabu, my money, my future. Altex East Africa, do something new. And well, of course, when we do return, we do have more coming in from our developing story this morning. Besides that, we also are getting into sports business and looking at the world of entertainment with Andrew Barigi here. So stick around, we'll be right back.